I wanted to take a minute today at the beginning of the podcast and say thank you to our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. Huber has actually been a sponsor of the podcast since 2020 when we decided to start this little endeavor. Without our sponsors, this content is probably not something that happens. But I think the best part about having Huber as a partner on this is it's an incredibly authentic alignment. Peter, Steve, and I all use Huber Woods. I've been using Advantech Subfloor for coming on probably 21 years now. I've been using Zip System and Zip System with the insulation on the back, the Zip R, since 2013. It's a system that I believe in. That systems approach where things play well together. They have design parameters that allow you to use their system for what you're working on. It works. Their tech support's there. Their knowledge is there. I've never had an issue with their product, and it's a great thing that they've decided to sponsor the podcast. So thank you, Huber Engineered Woods.
Well, howdy, folks. Steve Basic here from the Unbuild It podcast. Yeah. To my left, Jake Bruton. Say a syllable.
Hello. You're really leaning into that Texas thing with all the howdies lately, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm playing cowboy. And
it's appropriate that Peter's way left.
Peter's.
People's Republic of Vermont. Isn't that what you...
But he doesn't even live there anymore.
I know.
He moved to the live free or die state, which I can't believe, but he did. Say something, Peter.
So happy to be here out of New Hampshire in Texas.
In Texas, yes.
Because if you're going to go to Texas, it should be Austin. Just saying.
Again, left leaning.
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right, we're off the Texas thing. I love Texas, but we've given it its 15 minutes, I think. We're on to bigger and better things. So I got an exciting topic for you guys today, because this is a topic where a grumpy old man architect was always leery of a concept, has finally done it, and has seen the light. How about that? I know you're excited.
That's what's awesome about you, Steve.
I won't say it's necessarily the only, but it definitely changed my view a little. We're going to talk about offsite building, and specifically offsite framing. So we're currently doing an offsite build. It is a project where we talked previously about the offsite superior wall foundation system. Mm-hmm. It's the same house. So okay. Up above that, we have a company, Harvest Homes. They're just west of Albany, New York. They're probably 175 miles, 180 miles from the site. So they travel up to about 250 miles. So we're not quite there, but we're towards the extent of where they're willing to go. They are taking on doing all of the floor framing offsite, all of the wall framing offsite, and they're making all of the roof trusses, obviously, and sending out the roof sheathing and stuff. So we have a coordinated subcontractor on site that's putting it all together.
So it is a truss roof and not like a SIPS roof or anything like that.
Right. It's a fully trussed roof. Everything about it is.
And Steve, what's the driving idea behind, because you certainly weren't the one that was pushing, because you've been reluctant about this type of stuff.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that and honestly, I think we're going to see more of this for this reason. Mm-hmm. A lot of projects, are coming on board where the client says, well, I'm just going to act as the GC on this project. And I don't think that's a great idea in a conventional method. Excuse me. And meaning that they don't have the loyalty of foundation contractors. They don't have the loyalty of a framer. None of that, right? So they put it out to bid. Framer's going to throw a number saying, hey, whatever, a homeowner, I'll do the work for him, but this is my number. They probably add maybe some money to it if they're smart, just because there's going to be some aggravation there. So the homeowner goes to a company that says, yeah, we do this offsite and we'll manage the whole thing for you. And we have subs that will install our work.
I didn't know that. What's driving this is the client.
Yeah. So we have the client, which, if you look at it now, we're talking about this, but pretty much they're wrapping up the roof framing sheathing as we speak here. And in like 2 weeks, the homeowner has gotten the foundation system in, the floor assembly, all of the walls have been erected, and the roof is now being finished up. And the homeowner only had to talk to 2 people, right? They talked to the project manager at Superior Walls and the project manager at Harvest Homes. And those companies have taken care of everything and the subs and all of that. So, we went out to see their operation, which was very intriguing, but it's amazing at how somewhat elementary it is, right? Like the floor assembly plant, if you will, or manufacturing facility was literally, it's probably the size of a 3-car garage, like McCoy's.
Okay.
Right. Like that's where the whole thing on one side, they have like a 10-foot wide garage door. On this side, they have a 10-foot garage door. They have 2 little rails that are embedded in the concrete floor, and they have a cart that rolls on it. So they open that door, they put all the material on it, they roll it in. There's a guy with a radial arm saw. He gets a printout, cuts all of the floor assemblies. All the panels are numbered. So he cuts everything, all the blocking, everything for the floor panel system 1. And he just stacks it up over there. And then number 2 next to it, 3, 4, 5, whatever. They're also created in the inverted order that they will be installed. Right. So the last panel on the truck is the first panel is getting installed. Right. So panel number 1 is actually it's the first panel made, but the last panel installed. Yeah. Right. So they build the puzzle backwards.
Yep.
And everything is there. Blocking, like all of the column lines are figured out. All the solid blocking is put inside of that floor assembly. But it's basically made on this one bed because they're limited to 8 feet, which is the width of a tractor trailer. And so they frame it. It's framed at probably about a 32-inch high table. So these guys aren't bending over. It's not like serious hunched over back work. They're walking around a table. And, occasionally a guy obviously has to jump up and put it together. But they put that floor frame together, and then they simply slide it off the table onto the cart, and then they sheathe it. And then they open up this door, roll it out, a forklift grabs it and puts it on the truck. And then they just go back and grab the next set of stuff that is cut. So it was, like I said, it was pretty elementary. Yeah. Stuff comes in, it gets cut, it gets framed up, it gets sheathed, it goes out that door and gets loaded on a truck.
And all of this is happening during an amazingly wet summer.
Well, it's the cool thing is, and I had said that, in some of the videos and stuff I shot there, like weather is taken out of the equation. Doesn't matter.
For the most part,
For the most part, right? All the material is dry stacked in their barn in the back, right? So everything's nice and dry. The other thing that I thought was pretty incredible about this company in particular was the fact that the project managers just simply asked, like, what do we want to do for floor joists? What do we want to do for floor sheathing? Because it's not like they only have Advantech in back or they only have I joists back there. They'll frame it however you want. He said, we'll frame 2x10s, 2x12s, I joist, trusses, whatever it is that you want to build with. And so you give them the ingredients list and they whip up the recipe.
Did you start working with them fairly on in your design? What sort of impact was there?
No, we had it designed. We were going to go the traditional route. And then the homeowner met them somewhere, started having a talk and said, I think this is probably the way I want to go, because they sold it as a whole package deal. Like, you don't have to worry about anything anymore. Right.
Would you have changed your design, do you think, at all, if you had been involved earlier in the process?
They modified their system to what we wanted. Right. We wanted to use a trimmable open web floor joist, Triforce. Right. And so they said, no problem. We'll just acquire, we'll engineer the right model, and then we'll acquire those floor joists from Triforce and we'll bring them down, we'll cut them, and we'll install it.
Okay, so if you design this as a flush design, like a Monopoly house project, so they said, oh, we can just do the stick stuff on later, ladder framing. That's no problem. We can do that as easily as a floor system, right?
I think they would be accommodating for almost anything.
Yeah.
As long as it's wood. Because the reality is the three guys that were in the floor assembly shop, they're just three carpenters. Mm-hmm. But instead of going to a job site, they go to this garage every day. Mm-hmm. And they frame floors and do their thing. And the nice thing is in February, that room is heated. On a rainy day, that room is dry, right? So they're never really in any type of challenging environment. They're always in there in a T-shirt doing their thing, and the table, the height, there's safety. There's nothing over their head.
Mm-hmm. No ladder work.
No high risk environment of I'm going to get hurt or whatever. And and everything.
They probably don't have to use a porta pot.
They probably don't have to use it. I call them Comfort Castle, but yeah.
Comfort Castle.
But they don't have to use that. Plus, the other thing is the company now is, instead of buying like a case of nails, they can buy, 10 or 100 or pallet of pieces of nails.
So far, all upside to this approach. Any downside?
On the floor framing, I don't think. On the wall framing, there were some areas where like all of a sudden we have like 6 studs stacked together. And part of it is that like they chose to make the panel joint adjacent to the window that had like 3 studs. And then you need the 2 studs at the end to connect. And then on this side, there was a door which had a couple more studs. So like you look at it and go, man, that's just a lot of wood. Like if we frame that on site, it probably wouldn't happen. But again, you
have zip R in that assembly.
We have zip R assembly on that, and we have zip R9.
Yeah.
Right. And, but the floor assembly, we brought that out, and I actually literally, when I say met the truck, like they pulled up while I was there, and 3 hours and 10 minutes to set 3,300 square feet of flooring.
Trusses and subfloor.
Because the trusses and subfloor, everything it's like already pre-designed. Like there's a lap there.
Yeah.
So the panel you drop, the sheathing stops at half truss, and the next panel comes in and drops. It's literally just the way you would frame it. If you walk in there now and you walk through the basement, you wouldn't know that this was built offsite somewhere. It looks just like a basement that would have been framed on site. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the really good framers out there, but these guys are framers too. It's just their stuff goes on a truck and then gets put into place. Now, the beauty of that is we went out there and we visited the site and we saw them actually making the floor panels for our project while our site was getting developed, right? Even before Superior Wall showed up. So they had 2 truckloads of floor assembly before Superior Wall was done. So they literally showed up. Foundation stopped on Monday. Wednesday morning, we had floor assembly. Wednesday at noon, we had a floor.
The advantages of this at the roof, right? Those are individual. That's pretty similar to how
that's pretty standard. They delivered trusses, and then they just had a couple pallets of or a couple lifts of 5/8 inch sheathing that they had.
So that's not really any different.
No, but the one good thing that the one benefit there is you have a truck. The tractor trailer has a 90-foot boom crane on the front of it. So they were able to just lift of plywood, go and set it up on the roof for these guys.
Yeah, they could handle that.
And they could handle it.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to rent necessarily a lull on the project. The crane did that work. But
and how complicated was the roof? Are there a lot of dormers?
There's not a lot of dormers, but there's a significant amount of switching and such. But again, it's I don't know, maybe 8 different truss styles or truss types, different widths and such. But the other thing is all of the trusses came out already, like the ones that sat on the gable ends, they were already sheathed with R9. So they sat down on the top plate, and the guy just had to go up there and tape the joint now. Right. So that was one joint. That was fully coordinated with the wall framing.
Very cool.
And just like the floor framing, the wall framing was done all in. We had Zip R9 2x6 24-inch on center. So we dictated what we wanted, and they said, "Sure, we'll go get that stuff."
Probably with the Zip R9, you get a lot more consistent depth of fasteners in a factory than you would out in the field.
I would say yes. When I just took a quick look at it, and there was not many that were like really buried, and there weren't many that it was
because it's just more control in a factory.
It was a better.
Well, you can have
a better
500-gallon air tank where you don't experience fluctuations.
Yeah. I mean, if you saw if you moved on from the wood and you went into their wall framing plant, right? It literally had a barn on one side that I don't know, it was probably like 40 by 60. And they had all their, like they get truckloads of lumber.
Yeah.
And then it comes in through a door, gets cut, and then it gets put on a table. So it's like this gets framed, the wall gets framed, all the doors and windows are left out. It goes down to station 2, and there's a guy there that did nothing but cut all of the jacks and kings and the headers for it. And so then he just inserts those in the opening. And then it goes to station 3. Station 3, they drop the sheathing on it. Station 4, they router out all of the sheathing. And they had this router on this set of arms that, I don't know, is probably about a 10-foot spread. It was 2-man operated. So they just, traced out and routed everything out in the middle of the panels. And everything was very crisply cut and defined, and just like the floor, the walls went together.
So no windows installed as part of the...
No windows installed.
But they will.
They will if you want them to.
No
they
kidding.
had panels that were on a truck with windows installed.
Wow.
And such already.
And if you're doing, triple pane heavy European windows, they do that too?
They would do whatever you want. He said. That's the beauty of it. It's like kind of an a la carte line, but it's done in this factory type setting and environment.
I would think that I'd always be worried about the lift points on a big wall section, and then get a little torque in there, and you have a window installed. That would make me nervous.
The European, like I might be afraid of that with a flimsier type window. Like the European windows aren't going to. The studs are probably going to fail before the window does.
Yeah, it was actually the first time that we used Schuko's UPVC windows from European Architectural Supply. I was like, Patrick, the owner of the company, I was like, Patrick, you didn't ship any install instructions, and he was walking me through it, and he was like, and then just level the window. And I was like, you mean like level, plumb, and square? He's like, if you put it in their level, it's going to be plumb, and you're not going to rack the thing out of square.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, who's cocky in this conversation? And then he was right. Like, we leveled a bunch of them. If
you tried to rack the window, you can't. They're
just so much more robust.
The cross section of the window frame on all of them, wood, aluminum, or the UPVC, it's like 4 1/4 inches, 4 3/8 of an inch.
So
it is beefy.
I was lucky enough, SIGA invited us to go to Switzerland. You went on the first trip, and we all got COVID and had to come home early. And then we went back a few months later, and you weren't available, but I went on the second trip as well. One of the places we visited was a company called Ringley, which is a prefab panelized construction company in Switzerland. A couple of the things that I thought were really amazing, we kind of touched on the idea of like worker health and safety. Everything had dust control. The dust control was enormous and actually worked, as opposed to job site dust control, where it's like, oh, you're cutting hardy siding.
Well, not only is it clean, the place at Harvest Homes, they take all the sawdust and they can make it into these hockey pucks and sell it to people that want to use it in their stoves and stuff at the farms and stuff nearby. So you can recycle a bunch of that sawdust and stuff. It's not necessarily a waste product.
It's industrial level operation that opens up all kinds of opportunities that way. Yeah.
The other thing that Ringley was doing was they had stolen a bunch of ideas from automobile manufacturing, and like everything was lifted by a piece of equipment. Nobody was lifting it. And it was like things were color coded for, like, if it's in this color bay, it's too heavy that you're not allowed to lift it. If it's in this color bay, you can lift it, but it takes 2 people, a person on both ends. And they were small amounts. Like it's 30 pounds. It takes 2 people to lift. Like we're not hurting ourselves in any way. Like the most that we're lifting is 2 gallons of milk at a time.
Maybe even I could work there.
Maybe. I did say 30, I guess, split between 2 people. Maybe.
If it was me and you,
they probably
or
have
me and
some kind
Steve,
of,
we could do it.
They probably have some kind of age restriction.
They might.
What, the equipment or the
no,
like me?
Your age.
Okay.
I think the EU has health and safety for the elderly. Sorry.
It's the blower doors that get me, man.
The Retrotech has a new blower door that has a battery operation and a very small fan. You should look into it. It's like 20 pounds instead of 40 pounds.
I'm trying to retire. You come up with these ideas that allow me to work. It's killing me.
One of the really interesting things that I saw at Ringley, though, was everything goes on. You said cart. They have like a table. They call it a table. And it is the size of a semi-truck bed. And it has 4 legs that swing down or swing back up. And so like everything stacks onto this via a crane. It all gets strapped on and then shrink wrapped so that it's protected. And then they hook the crane to the whole table. They stand it up. They swing the legs down. A semi backs a blank trailer underneath of it. They lower it. They lift it again. They lower it down onto there, swing the legs up. It drives away. And then when they get to the job site,
same thing.
The legs go down and the guy cranks up each corner, lifts it off of his truck, and he's able to just head back to the factory and get another one. And then when he gets back to the job, that table that he just delivered on the last trip, he picks up the empty one and heads back with it. It's like
no dead haul.
They have been doing this for so much longer than we have. That they had things figured out.
Is that because everybody's older there?
I think it's because nobody likes construction in that country. They want their peace and quiet. And
that's interesting.
I mean, one of the impressions
quieter
was like,
job sites.
It's a shorter job site. It's a quieter job site. We looked at another place, and I apologize, I can't remember their name. Their entire facility was filled with a McDonald's. And I was like, you guys are building McDonald's? And he was like, yeah, the municipality put restrictions on how many work hours we could do in a week because we were going to disturb the environment, the neighborhood. And so the solution was we'll just prefab the whole thing. And then we never cross that work hour limit. Like we're not going to work too late in the day because people are getting home and want to sit on their porch.
I mean, prefab at McDonald's, it kind of fits with the way they treat their food. So,
yeah. But it's the conversation that happened in Switzerland was enlightening, and I've still trying to process like how that might apply. I came back from there going, I wonder if we could do any of this in our shop. I mean, even when I built my personal house, we did 2x8 studs. Right. I pre-cut all the studs on a rain day in my shop. I crowned them and then drilled a hole for electrical wires so that I wouldn't have to re-crown because I drilled the hole for the electrical wires on the drywall, the gypsum side instead of the zip side, so that I would know what the crown is. And it was like, it's just my time. It's raining. There's nothing else I can work on today. I'll just do this. And it was a huge production bump the day that we started framing. Everybody could just rack framing members. And that, and then the trip to Switzerland. And then I'm totally with Steve on this. I visited this job site in Leominster.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago when I was out visiting you.
You didn't come see me?
I didn't come and see you. I
Holy
apologize.
Smokes.
In fact, I made it a point to not tell you.
The home didn't get the message to you.
They limit your contact with the outside world.
I think
they said you were having your daily soup. But I standing there looking at those guys putting everything together, watching everything going into place, talking to Josh, the homeowner, who's amazing, the GC/homeowner. It really felt figured out, considered, and not that different than what we're doing now.
No. And all the wall framing had, like, we had engineered wood columns in there to carry certain girder truss loads and stuff. They were all inside the wall. So, like, the whole house gets engineered by them and laid out. And then it just, all that information goes to different cutting stations.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask you, are you, or would you do this over again?
Oh yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
With these
So
guys.
like with
and I don't know
precast foundation.
I don't know if all offsite experiences would be the same, but Harvest Homes, I would recommend that to other builders and homeowners and such. And not for nothing. I mean, there's a lot of really good framers out there, but when I talk to some of the general contractors that I work with, like, you know, they're still in search of like a really good framer. Yeah. Like, there's some framers out there, but it's like, yeah, we'll always entertain. Like, we haven't found.
So Steve had some, I think he called it old grumpy architect resistance, but I think you have a story about, I mean, you're not as old and grumpy as Steve, but you can be grumpy.
Yeah. Well, it's the idea of you have one bad experience. So it wasn't platform framing, it was SIPs. And it's actually the reason that we haven't revisited SIPs.
Structurally insulated panels.
20 years old. We were framing a house. This is when my dad owned the company. We're framing a house. We got a delivery of SIPs panels on a semi. We got the semi stuck. If you've ever dealt with a semi stuck in mud, truck and trailer, that's a nightmare. And I'm standing there going, if this would have come from the lumberyard, it wouldn't have been a semi that was stuck. It would be a 2-ton pickup that one of the local wreckers could actually get out. And then 2, we set the very first panel of the SIPs assembly, and the homeowner was there, and she walked onto the floor deck and she looked at the panel and she went, so my kitchen sink's going to be here? And we were like, yep. And she said, I thought I was going to be able to see the pond from here. And I was like, oh boy. Well, I didn't know that was like, I wasn't part of the design process. I was just a carpenter at that time. And I was just like, well, it doesn't look like you're gonna be able to see it. And she was like, well, that was kind of the whole point of putting the kitchen on this end of the house, is that we were going to be able to see the pond from here and like be able to look over our property and everything. And it was immediately like, okay, well, we'll just call the SIPs manufacturer and have them send. It took 8 weeks to get another panel. So the job sat for 8 weeks because that was our starting point. And it was the furthest away, and we had to work towards the crane, you know, rather than try to swing everything over. And it was literally, maybe we could have found a way around it, but we couldn't set the roof panels until all the walls were in. So we could have been 2 days ahead or something.
And that would have been a big enough window that you would have to
we had to
reframe the opening.
And they were like, it's easier for us to make a new panel for this than to try to provide you with the engineering solution for it, and you do it on site. Again, this is 20 something years ago. Yeah. It's not, I'm sure it's not the same way now. I'm sure that a lot of those things have been resolved and that there's ways to deal with that. But I had one, you know, as they call it, one bad taste in my mouth where I was just like, yep, I will never do that again. It was a pain in the butt. And it feels like this, and I'm guessing that there are more companies like Harvest that do this. It feels like this could be a solution that after being on that job, I was like, I'm going to look into this. I think that this could be an interesting solution.
And I'll tell you because I think we're probably close to closing this out. So I have a couple thoughts. Before they left, like, one of the head guys from Harvest Homes made the drive out. They asked if I would join them for dinner. And the whole dinner, we talked about the experience. They wanted to know, could we make this better in any way? So
sort of like the approach you take as an architect on the job.
I mean, the thing that I thought was extremely cool and that really allowed me to buy into Harvest Homes is the fact that these guys they're doing it to make money. They're a business. They have to do that. But there's people in that office that really believe that they can do something better if they're allowed to do it. And so they came out. We had a great dinner. I talked to their guy that's COO, whatever, that's in charge there, and we just talked, you know, endlessly about it. And we talked about, like, would you be willing to expand from 250 miles? Like, what if it was 1,000 miles? Right. I mean, it's at some point it's only trucking.
Yeah.
Right.
It's labor and trucking.
Right.
Like, if you have local framers that are doing it, you have the one guy that's certified to drive the truck and operate the crane.
Yeah.
He just gets paid mileage and time. What's it matter to him?
So there might not be a difference in extending that. And we have a project where I have 2 houses. They're in 2 adjacent lots in upstate New York, but it's within their 250-mile range in the opposite direction.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to talk to the homeowner there about, like, do we want to consider? Because the general contractor there, he's a single guy that hires out to his guys. And it's like, this would be a great opportunity. They're both like.
How long has Harvest Homes been in operation? Do you know?
From the looks of their buildings, years.
Decades. Maybe.
Yeah. I do know the answer because I asked them and I can't remember it, but you can check them out. They did a really good job, and call there and ask for Lance if you're really want to talk to them. And they did a hell of a job.
I think all three of us think that you can always get better quality, increased efficiencies if you're not doing it on the damn job site.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to figure that out.
And it all went together. So
agreed.
But I have another story to tell you guys. If we're ready. No.
Wait.
This is actually pretty interesting because I elected to.
I like the fact that our audio engineer is already smiling because he knows it's coming.
Well, I elected to enter this competition. Mm-hmm. And not only did I enter, I talked to one of my best friends and saying, hey, this is pretty cool. So it was for the winning person gets skin lotion for the rest of your life from this company. So I said, why don't we do it? We'll enter the competition. Well, lo and behold, he won. But that's not the part that really pisses me off because I don't mind losing to him. He's a good friend. But the part that pisses me off is he keeps rubbing it in.
I know they're coming. I love puns.
I like the idea of a competition being to win a lifetime supply of lotion.
That he had you there.
Yeah. Just thematically,
it's
it works.
Damn, why didn't he call me?
Yeah, he knows I'm a big lotion guy. He knows that I moisturize.
There you go.
Oh, the two of you.
You're hosting. I'm going to let you do all the send us out stuff that I normally get tasked.
There you have it. I'd say see y'all, but before I do that, if you want to write in, now this wasn't one of our typical Q&A, but if you have questions about this or any questions about building science that you would like us to answer in a future episode, Jake is going to tell you the website.
Questions at unbuilditpodcast.com.
There you go. And one of the kind of breaking news for our audience is that our podcast is also now part of the Build Show. So not only can you find it on YouTube and all of the places that you were able to find it, it is also part of the Build Show network now. So Jake and I have been contributors there for a few years now. Now Peter joins the ranks of the Build Show team, and you can go check it out there. So I'm going to let these two guys.
We should test to see if Reisinger actually listens to the podcast.
Okay.
Matt, you're a dork.
No,
I like you a lot, but you're a dork.
Matt, I've heard you like lotion.
Wow.
That was an odd twist.
That wasn't Peter coming out of the blue.
Nobody tell him. We have to find out whether or not he actually listens.
We'll have to see if Matt comes back with any rebuttals to that. But anyways, gentlemen, you want to say goodbye?
Thanks for listening.
I'd like to say goodbye. Goodbye.
See y'all.